Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Jake C. Paulson podcast. You are with me on this lovely Monday here in Iowa City. Gosh, I love it down here. We experienced some cold weather. I was actually down in Atlanta for a couple days, and it was actually, I think it was about 25 degrees some days and a high of like 25, 30, which I'm from Minnesota. That is not that cold in Minnesota, let alone even here in Iowa, which is about 5 hours south of where I grew up. I went to school at like Bemidji State University, which is an hour and a half south of Canada. And I remember there was times, and I even looked at the forecast while I was in Atlanta. And by the way, they shut all of the schools down. Like everything was shut down because they don't have like winter conditions. They don't have salt to salt the roads. Even if it didn't snow, it could have snowed. When I went to school at Bemidji, though, I remember there was days where it felt like negative 35, negative 40. My truck wouldn't start one time. I even looked at the forecast when I was down there, like I said, and it was negative 24. That's how it was real feel. But it actually felt like, or I guess that was the real temperature. It actually felt like negative 33 up there. So anyways, it's been cold. Let's just say that. I spent a couple weeks in Nashville. I did some traveling, ran a marathon in Arizona. So that's kind of like a catch up to speed on life there. But anyways, we're here back in the home state, Iowa, here at the good old apartment. So anyways, I just wanted to welcome y'all back to another episode of the Jake C. Paulson podcast. Today we're going to be talking about money. That's the main topic for the day. The pursuit of money. It's one thing that everybody has pursued at one point is money. Some people more than others. And obviously it's the one thing that comes and goes, right? The one thing that you can buy things that will break with your hard-earned money. You can also buy things that'll multiply your money and you can also buy yourself time. You know, if you get up to that level, you can start investing in things that help save you time, because although money is one thing that comes and goes, time is one thing that doesn't. You can never get back time, right? So very, very highly intellectual, successful people will end up buying time. We heard that from when we had Martine Cow on the podcast, when he talked about using his money to leverage his time and to build more time into his schedule. And I love it too. I'm addicted to that concept. That's actually how I have enough time to dedicate time to this podcast every week. So I love it. I love investing in my time. But before we would dive in today, I wanted to read a poem to you guys. All right, this poem is very near and dear to me. It explains the concept of money very truthfully. It says, "Penny, penny, easily spent. Copper brown and worth 1 cent. Nickel, nickel, thick and fat. You're worth 5 cents. I know that. Dime, dime, little and thin. I remember you're worth 10. Quarter, quarter, big and bold. You're worth 25, I am told." So today we're going to talk about how successful people view money so you can exceed expectations in your business, your leadership, and your community. So let's dive in. So from reading articles, from being around wealthy people, I've personally learned that there's about 3 categories to how people think about money. There's really 3 categories of people. There's the savers, people that save money. Some people just keep saving and saving and saving. Some people save money and then spend a bunch. There's investors, those people that invest their money as they get it and they build a portfolio. And then there's the 3rd category of people that I call the livers. Those are the people that live with their money throughout their whole life. Now, there's no right or wrong person to be, okay? I'm not going to sit here and talk about this podcast, best ways to invest and how to live financially free and, how to build your portfolio. So really going back to how successful people view money, the title of the episode, it's really kind of clickbait. There's no get rich quick. This is how to view money so you can, live a financially free, like I just said, live a financially free life. It's really defined differently by everybody. Like you have a different definition than I do. And Martine, who we had on the podcast, has a way different definition than, AJ, who I work with, or the people that I lead in my business have a very different definition of success, right? So the question you should ask yourself is really, how do I define success? And if your answer has to do with money, you'll eventually find that you'll be in the same state of mind as you are without money as you are with money. Meaning you're going to be thinking the same way. If you can't hold on to money right now, you're not going to be able to hold on to it when you have it. Okay, those habits are going to stick with you. For instance, I remember when I bought my first car, when I turned 16, I think it was my 16th birthday. But I bought my first car. It was a Cadillac DHS DeVille 2000. And I saved up money. I was a saver at the time. I saved up a bunch of money from dishwashing when I was 15. My parents helped me out a ton with that by giving me money to go out with friends. So that was super helpful. But I bought my first car. And then eventually 3 years later, when I was a freshman in college, the head gasket blew. I loved the Cadillac, by the way. Recommend, when they say float like a butterfly, that's it. That's the car. It literally floats. You're sitting in like a couch in the car. It's so nice. So when that car went down, I had a 2003 GMC Envoy with like 150,000 miles. I think it was more like 180. But cool car, good car to have in the winter. That was the one that I was talking about, my truck. That one, I eventually ended up selling that one. I had it for like a year. And then I bought a 2005 Prius. That was my next car. That one was pretty nice. It had some problems, of course, had some issues, but overall, I'm a big fan of Toyota, so I like that one. But it did have a ton of problems, especially the coolant. There's like a thing called a triple coolant control valve. Man, if you have one of those cars, you know what I'm talking about. That one was a pain in the butt ever since I had it. But I got rid of it. I ended up in 2023 in October. I ended up buying a new car. But every time I had those older cars, I remember throughout all of the cars, I would envy the new car on the road. So I'd be driving along. Some of you guys might feel the same way or have felt the same way. When you're driving along, you're like, gosh, that guy's got just a brand new Honda or whatever car it is, brand new something. It's got a screen in the car. Or you've been in one of those cars where you just feel secure. Like you just feel like nothing's going to happen to this car. There's a slim chance that you're going to wake up and that car is going to not want to work today. That feeling of just wanting that car, or that feeling of, gosh, I remember thinking to myself, just, if only I had a car like that, it would cure so many problems in my life. If only I could, not have to worry about my car not starting today. If only I had not have to, put way too much gas because this thing takes so much gas. Or if only I didn't have to, whatever it was, I would always think to myself, if only I had that car, all of my problems or most of my problems would be cured. And then, while I was fantasizing about that new car, enough, I eventually, in October of 2023, so 2 years ago, a little under 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago, I bought a 2018 Toyota RAV4, and I bought it outright. So I just bought it. And I didn't get into the car and start freaking out like, yes, this is my dream, this is exactly what I wanted. I didn't get into the car going, woohoo, and throw like a parade of this was my goal all along, all those feelings, which I had a lot of them, all of those feelings of seeing those new cars, just it motivated me in the moment. But when I sat in the front seat of that car and test drove it and gave over the money and bought it, that feeling was gone. It was like, well, this is just another tool. This is just another tool that I have now, just an expensive tool that I have to help me achieve my goals. So the point of that is how a lot of people view money. It's if only I had all that money. It's if only I was able to invest. If only I had, Elon Musk's money, what would I do with all that? When in reality, a lot of people can't handle that much money. So if your definition of success is based upon how much money you have or how much money you will never be successful. Quotations around successful. Your own mind is not going to let you become successful because it'll keep pushing the needle. Why? Because just like the car, you realize that everything happens twice. First, once in your head, the visions of the car, all of the vivid feelings that you have about wanting that car and how it's going to cure all of your problems. That's the first time it happens, once in your head. And then it happens again in reality. And I'm sad to say, but reality is nothing like when it happens in your head. It's nothing like I'd hoped it would be. Unfortunately, that's why they say people when they live for monetary things or physical things that they can get, those people are never really fulfilled or happy, which I'm not going to argue if people are or not. I don't know people like that, so I don't know. But we've all heard that stereotype, right? If you live for money, you're going to be bummed out when you get it, right? And I've heard that story multiple times. Multiple times. Just like those commercials like you see on TV, like fast food commercials you see, or even like the drug commercials. You see an advertisement of an older person and they're taking this, whatever this drug is, and now they're running and playing with their grandkids. Now they're running with their dog and they're happy and they're, doing things that it's like the start of the commercials, like them having back pain or whatever. And then the ending of the commercial is them just, doing things that their younger self would do. And they're all happy and the music changes and all this stuff. So that's the one thing in your head, if you could realize that. That is everything happening first in your head. And then the very last 5 seconds, 6, 7, 8 seconds of the commercial is the reality. And that is all the side effects that it could cause. That is the severe back pain. That is the, drowsiness. That is the, lack of motivation. Like all that stuff that's a side effect of this drug that they're promoting. That's how you see it in commercials. And they say it really quickly. And most of it's really, really extreme. That's the reality. Or the fast food ads. An ad for McDonald's or, you see someone happily eating a Big Mac, or happily eating a bag of Doritos, or burritos, or whatever. And they're eating it with their entire family, and it's a whole, emotional thing. That is yourself picturing that new car and wondering what it's going to feel like, knowing that all your problems are going to be solved. When in reality, you eat that freaking Big Mac and you sit on your couch and scroll through Instagram Reels for 2 hours. In reality, you bring home 5 burritos from Taco Bell just because you saw it on an advertisement. You eat it all and you sit on the couch wishing you were somewhere else. You sit on the couch just regretting everything you did, looking on social media, seeing all these like super fit people, like feeling sorry for yourself. That's the reality that they don't show in the TVs. Like I said, everything happens twice. Once in your head and once in reality. And to top it all off, they have slogans like, I'm loving it, or finger licking good, or whatever it may be, to show that, hey, you are going to love it, or it's going to be that good. Your stomach might not like it, and your habits probably won't like it either. But either way, this is, hopefully you guys can start to see that this is comparing to money You can't just, yes, having money is nice, and the way to have it. And if you are smart with money, it can create more time for you. It can be wonders to have money. I know a lot of people that are like, money's not the only thing. It's not number one. It's not number two, but it damn sure is top five. It's one of those things that you just can't get back, right? Well, you can get back. Sorry, it's one of those things that is going to propel you forward and help you live a better life if you're smart with it. And don't get me wrong about the fast food stuff. I love fast food. I eat McDonald's, not all the time, but I'll eat a Big Mac here and there. I go because it's cheap, and I'm pretty cheap sometimes. So I'll go because it's cheap. I'll use the app. I'll get some points together and get get one of those McGriddles. I'll go there just for the McGriddle. So I'll eat fast food. But the point I'm trying to make here is that if you spend your time desiring money and how you feel when you finally have it, you're probably too immature to have it. And you probably need to grow on your maturity in order to be able to sustain yourself with money. Successful people don't see money as a primary goal or a determinant of their success. They don't see their success being money. Okay, of course it's a goal. When over here on my kitchen sink, I just walked out there and I have a goal of how much money I want to make this year right above my kitchen sink. So of course, for everybody, it should be some type of a goal. It should be, I want to make X amount. But it's not the only goal. It's not the only goal, and it should not be above everything else. It shouldn't be above everything else. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to have a financial goal, but I'm rather saying to view your financial goal to not view it determining your success. So, let me give you a little secret, letting you in on a little secret of perspective. And by the way, perspective is the way you see things from a different point of view. So it's like growing up with your parents being super wealthy and having a lot of things that you need just at your fingertips, having luxuries instead of essentials. It's like growing up with your parents being wealthy and then versus growing up in a household that can't pay the bills and they're living off Social Security. Those two individuals will have two completely different perspectives on money. Completely different. Okay, so that is what perspective is. So over the past few years, from spending, a lot of time and having many conversations with millionaires, multimillionaires, people that make well over six figures or well into the six figures, and also from seeing people make 20 grand a year to 90 or 80 or 70 grand a year just within a year span, like bump up their financials like that. From spending time and having conversations with those people, I've found a couple ways to change your perspective. So instead of coming up with a perspective of, wealthy family or the latter, you can actually just change your perspective on your own. And I found that there is essentially one common denominator in how they perceive money. And that is that all of these people view money as a measurement of their success. Not as a determinant, but a measurement of their success. Again, they view money as a measurement of their success. Success to them is tied to a really deep goal of theirs. It's either tied to personal growth, developing influence, living with integrity, adding value. Elon Musk is a great one for this, or a great example of this. He says that money is determined by how much value you add, or how big of a problem you solve, I think were the exact words that he used. It's a measurement of how impactful the problem that you're solving is, or how big the problem that you're solving is. And I agree. And in the long term, you want to become a person who adds value or solves problems, or solves the most problems like him, or the biggest problems. Again, it's a thermometer for how you gauge how successful you're becoming. Now, if 1 year you're at 90 degrees, wow, you're freaking killing it. You're probably on track to becoming the person you want to become. If it's not up there, something's not going the right way you want it to go, and you're not growing in that aspect. So really successful people, by viewing money as a measurement, they're opening themselves up to criticism by their own bank account. So their own bank account, just by looking at that, is criticizing their actions, their habits. If your bank account's low, that means they didn't put a lot of intentionality into their work that year. Or they took too much time off and they didn't work towards their goals for the type of person they want to become. So your bank account will vouch for your lack of discipline that year. Now, if they're making more money this year compared to the next, they'll probably find themselves that they put more effort into getting their business on track that year than the last year. And they're closer to the person they wish they wanted to become, which again is their goal. Now, to bring this all back to the poem I read at the beginning that has nothing to do with financial literacy, financial discipline, what to invest in, how to spread your portfolio, how to build it, how to become a millionaire, billionaire. No, that poem has nothing to do with any of that. I literally just read that poem simply because I could. And to me, that relates a lot to how I view money. I've realized that money is just a byproduct of how much I'm growing towards my version of success. My version. Okay, not your version, not anybody that listens to this version, not the President of the United States version of money, not Elon Musk or whatever it may be. None of their versions of money. It's my version. And it's a byproduct of how much I am living to my own standards of discipline, of integrity, whatever my version of success is. And my definition of success is that when those closest to me respect me because of my intentions, my actions, and my character. So if I'm living true to that day after day after day after day, and my bank account is growing, then that means that I am becoming the person that I want to become in the future, and I'm on the right track. Now, some years I might have a down year. Some years I might stay the same. But that just means if I grew a ton that year, I know that on the horizon, I'm due for a breakthrough. It's like when a 300 average batter goes up to hit in the last 9 at bats, he's gone out, or the last 7, then that means the next 3 on average, he's due for a hit. And that's what that means. So again, going back to how successful people view money, everybody views it differently. But as long as you're not making money the end all be all in your life and using it as a thermometer to just see and gauge how much you're actually growing yourself, and you've found your definition of success, then money will come to you easily. All right? Money will come to you easily. So that is it for this episode of the JC Paulson podcast. I really hope I laid that out. If it was somewhat confusing, put down in the comments that it was, and that would be some good feedback. If it wasn't and it was actually super helpful, put in the comments below. That'll give me some feedback as well. I appreciate our audience. I know there's quite a few people that listen to this, so I appreciate you guys a ton. I hope this is helpful for all of you guys in some capacity. I really just try to relate my own life experiences and try to pretty much break these concepts down into easy to understand language. So, and I'm also working on the audio as well. But if you like this and found it helpful, leave a like, leave a follow so that you can come out with, or you can stay up to date with all the content every single Monday. Share this with one friend. Super simple. If you found it helpful, or if it even was confusing, share it with someone and be like, hey, can you make sense of this? But if it was super helpful, I'm serious though, share it with a friend. Super helpful, but it also takes like 2-3 seconds by just pressing the share button, going into your message and sharing it with like the first or second contact, because that's probably the person that needs to hear something like this or would benefit from hearing something like this as well. So again, I'm dedicated to adding value to those who are striving to be better in themselves, their business, and their community. So as always, stay tuned for next week and let's get after it. Peace.